Well, welcome to this week's edition of Hawk Talk. I'm Seth Morkirky.
I'm Susanna Moberg.
And it's an interesting week here at DSU. It's homecoming, and so we have a lot of events going on both in the community, on campus, with athletics. So we've got a special edition of Hawk Talk. We're bringing back some former players, former students. So go ahead and introduce yourself. We have a guest from the best city in the world. Introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you have done.
Emphasis on special, I guess. My name is Eric Mines. I am a former coach and player at Dickinson State University. Work in the community now for Saks Motor Company. Also on the board of the Blue Hawk Touchdown Club as a fundraiser. So
yeah. So let's just talk about some of the times that you spent here. You were a player first, then you were a coach, and now you're still involved with the football team, still involved with the school, with that Touchdown Club. So just take us through your time here at DSU.
Well, I was brought here. I was recruited by Arlen Hoffland, who also is a big name in Blue Hawk football. He brought me up here on a recruiting visit. Loved the family feel up here, and ever since then, I guess I've been here. Gillette's been my home. I honestly thought I was going to be here for a year or two, and 22 years later, here I am. Yeah. Coached as a student, played for 4 years, coached as a student assistant for one. Then I helped coach at the high school for a couple years and kind of bounced around a little bit. Coached at a college in Montana for a little bit, and then came back in 2006 to work in the community a little bit. And I couldn't stay away, so 2007 I decided to go back to finish my degree as a part-time student and a full-time coach, and finished that, and like I said, went full-time with the college for a while, and now I'm working elsewhere, but definitely been big to me. So
yeah, and you mentioned that Touchdown Club, the involvement in that, the making of that, the creating of that is actually fairly recent in the past couple of years. And how important has that program been for the players? I know it's important to me, getting to meet those guys, having their support, but also bringing those guys back to the Blue Hawk football program.
Yeah, for a lot of us that played for Hank, there wasn't a whole lot of gear there. Obviously, there's always support within the community for DSU athletics and DSU football. And actually, Coach Schillinger, Jay Schillinger, is the one that kind of started it when he was away from the Hawks. And when he came back to help coach, he asked a few of us if we could get together and kind of take things over. And then, if anybody knows Eric Betcher, he is the president. We've taken it and run with it, put a committee together, and our whole goal is basically to help supplement everything. Every membership we raise goes 100% to DSU football scholarships, and all of the activities we put together, that money goes to help supplement the football program. We've helped with some sweats and some dinners and some things like that. It's just something that we love to do, and the nice thing is trying to get everybody involved. I played in the 90s, Betcher played in the 90s. Some of the guys, Coach Michelson, he played in the 80s, and we got some guys from the 70s. We're trying to get everybody together, and my goal, individually, was to get everybody who ever played for the Hank and for the Hawks, and for now Coach Stanton, to give $100 a year. If you're doing better, give us a little bit more, great. And if you think about the numbers who have played here and been a Blue Hawk, and before that a Savage, that could be a lot of money generated for the football program. And not only, we're talking about the football program now, but you take all the programs over the years, basketball, baseball, softball, all that. If those guys would give just a little bit back to something that meant so much to them, I've been here 22 years, and the reason is DSU football. So if we could get that going, that'd be great. And that's what we're doing. We're making baby steps and definitely trying to get that involved. So
yeah, definitely. So we talked a little bit about how it's homecoming week, and so let's think about that homecoming atmosphere. What was it like for you to play in that atmosphere, and then you moved into coaching in the homecoming atmosphere, and now in your role at the Touchdown Club, you get to plan a little bit of that. So what's that like through those transitions?
Playing was awesome. It was, playing in Whitney Stadium was pretty cool. It definitely wasn't as fancy as what you guys have got to play in and what I've recently got to coach in, but always a packed house. We've always had great support. The tailgates were just a little different back then. They used to have a beer garden and brats and stuff like that over in the park, but there was always so many people around. It was nice to see some of these old guys come back, you know, the guys that played before, and you get to know, like, I didn't play with, like, say, Eric Betcher, Paul Clare, some of those guys, but I've gotten to know them over the years, and that's when I first started meeting some of these guys, those guys that come back to watch me play. And now, coaching, same way. You get to see the guys that I played with that come back for the game, guys that I played with maybe going to the Hall of Fame. Coach that I played for and coach for is going in this year, which is pretty exciting. And then being a part of Touchdown Club is, for us, it's a big weekend to try to raise some money, A, and B, see all the guys we played with. And the cool thing now that we didn't have, and they had tailgates, but the tailgate atmosphere now within the last 5-6 years is phenomenal compared to, not that it was bad before, but it's right on campus, and obviously the facility that we're playing in now and all that stuff is pretty class act. So it's really adds to it, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a really cool atmosphere to walk through that. You know,
the Hawk Walk's awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad we got that kind of going, and that walk through there is so special, and it's really nice to be able to do that for you guys. You know, it's just something, because it's big times where you're at, no matter where you are, big times where you're at, and that's what we try to do as a Touchdown Club is, you know, support you guys 100%, and you know, give everything we've got to you guys so that you guys, I mean, our goal every year is a conference championship and a national championship. I mean, honestly, and you got to start somewhere, and that's what we're trying to do is keep pushing forward and do that. So.
Yeah. Well, looking at the football team, you know, specifically the defense, you're a defensive guy. You played defense, coached defense, mindset of defense. The defense has become really powerful these past couple of years, especially this season. They've caused so many turnovers. Jalen's is catching so many interceptions. I think we have a couple more guys on the team who are causing turnovers. What is it like to have that defense be so strong? I know you guys have a strong defense, and it's coming back to that strong defense too.
Yeah, the defense has always been kind of the bread and butter. You know, obviously ball control and defense when I played, and so it's nice to see that. There's athletes all over the place. All the athletes go play defense. That's what I like to say. Those guys are the hard, physical, hard-playing guys. All the prima donnas go play wide receiver, you know. So, but
just because I'm a wide receiver, you said that.
It's no, it's awesome to see, you know, these guys playing, you know, week in, week out, causing some havoc. Coach Thier, I think, is doing a great job on the defensive side of the ball, along with the other guys. But it's nice to see, and obviously there's some talent out there. Jay Liggins is very good. You know, the linebackers are awfully good. I mean, it's fun, and they've gotten, obviously, Caden Bush, you didn't even mention him. I mean, there's a lot of talent over there, you know, and it's nice to see them flying around and making plays.
Yeah, and talking about recruiting, you know, getting some of those guys on defense, you recruited me to come here. Getting more Wyoming kids has kind of been the trend now. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a trend, but getting more and more Wyoming kids is something that I'm seeing and I'm really excited about. What is that feeling to get more of these kids that are from your home state to come to the Blue Hawk family? Yeah,
I mean, obviously the Blue Hawk family's meant so much to me, and there's good football played in Wyoming. I know that, playing there, and I think it's really important. I mean, you know, the mass or the biggest number of recruits, you know, from at DSU is Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. That was always the bread and butter when I recruited. Yes, we get some great players from outside of that area, and I mean those guys are super important too. But you know, you need those numbers from the local area, and it's a 4-hour drive from Gillette. You know, it's I mean, so the one thing that's a little tougher about recruiting Wyoming is you have to drive by a couple schools that are pretty decent to get to here. But I think it's really important, and that was my area when I recruited, was Wyoming. Obviously, I brought you up and some other guys, but you know, the better the Blue Hawks perform year in, year out, you know, definitely going to be a little easier. And now it's nice that Coach McGuire's up here, and he has a pretty good history in Wyoming, which is nice. I mean, with me recruiting Wyoming, yes, I played there, but it was quite a few years ago, and everybody had already forgotten about me. But I knew some of the coaches, which was nice, and I knew, you know, in and out. And but yeah, it's exciting to be able to see those guys and my Camels and the, you know, Campbell County guys and those guys from Wyoming. I definitely cheer for them a little extra hard, you know, when you guys do something on the field. So
yeah. As you think about your time at DSU and your different roles and activities you've been involved in, what is your best memory of DSU?
Honestly, my best memory is not one single memory. It's like it's a group of memories. It's the guys that I hung out with, the guys that I played with, and even the guys I met in the dorms and stuff like that. I got married less than a year ago, and my wedding was a really good time because these guys all came back. I mean, all the guys I played with, and then the guys I lived with. And it wasn't, football, basketball, whatever. It was just Blue Hawks, right? And I think that's important. And every program says it's all about family, and I understand that. But I've been in other programs, and to me, there's just something extremely special about being a DSU Blue Hawk. Yeah. And so that's why, us as the Blue Hawk Touchdown Club and the booster members and all that, I mean, that's why it's pretty easy to support you guys because they've been there. But like I said, it's really the relationships I've made, not only with my friends, but, Coach Hoffman, Coach B, and others. So.
Yeah. You talked about this a little bit, but how important is it for people to stay involved in their respective programs even after they've graduated?
I think it's huge. Because, the budget out there athletically, universally, or at the university is, there's not, there's a lot of different universities in the state that have to be funded. There's a lot of different things going on there. So it's not like we're not at Alabama or Texas here to where you just write a check for something and it's taken care of. There needs to be that backing, and I think it's extremely important. And like you mentioned, for other sports too. What we did, what Jace did, and then we continued on with, is just trying to, in addition to, what the boosters do, and they do such a great job in the foundation, raising money, but, our whole goal, like I said, is to just take care of the football program. And it'd be nice if we could get all programs to take care of that. Because there's a great history, not only football, obviously track and field, wrestling, the basketball programs, the softball. There's success all over the place, cross country. Those are all there, right? Yeah. So it's just getting those people to give back, and it doesn't need to be a lot. It just is, and even, monetarily isn't always the answer either. Just to be there to support and show up and be there and to cheer and to help and all that and be at the functions and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, last question here, Coach. We're asking everybody this since it is the homecoming or the centennial year and homecoming week now. What does DSU mean to you? Honestly, means family, pride. Yeah. DSU's been really big in my life. Not only, take the fact that I worked there and coached there out of it. Just the fact that, for 4 years playing and then a couple years after that attending school later, it just means the relationships. I have relationships going with the guys from the 90s all the way through now, and that's one thing I do miss about coaching is some of these newer guys, I don't know the faces and the names as well as I do Seth and Jay and Jalen and some of those guys, that have been around. Right. But it means it's family and pride and just growing up part of one big Blue Hawk family. Yeah, that's right. Well said. Well, Coach, it's been great to have you on. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
And we'll be back talking with another former athlete right after this.
Life is full of many successes, achievements, stages. Every year we grow, things change, and pretty soon we realize we want and need to do more. When you're ready for that next step, Dickinson State University will get you there. Find out how at dsublue.com.
Well, welcome back to Hawk Talk. We're here talking with another former athlete. Had a different journey getting here, but go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you did here at DSU and what you're doing in Dickinson.
Okay, my name is Rayma Swan, and I am from Puerto Rico, but I came in here. It was my third year of school. I used to go to college in South Dakota, and then the college closed down, and DSU was like our biggest competition, and I was like, I want to be in that team. Yeah. So that's how I ended up here.
Yeah. Since being in Dickinson, what kind of things have you been involved in, both at DSU and in the city?
I did coach the Trinity High School volleyball team, and I'm also like a member of the booster club for DSU. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing. And I love to help every time that somebody asks for help. So any volunteering that people always have, I'm usually there.
Yeah. You played in the 2000s.
Yeah.
What was the environment like, both on the court, in Scott Gym? What was it like?
It was insane, especially if we were playing like national.
Yeah.
You know, it was a totally different atmosphere. I mean, our team, it was mostly like people from out of state. I mean, sometimes in the court you could hear 4 different languages in there,
Oh, wow.
which is one of the things what it made me want to go here. I mean, I came in, Coach Moody goes, I need you to scrimmage. I wasn't even ready. He got me a pair of shoes, and I started scrimmaging the girls, and it was like war right away.
Yeah.
So I love that atmosphere, and I love to put the DSU suit and go to a tournament and everybody looking at us and be like, there's DSU, they're
Yeah.
walking in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Coach Moody, you mentioned him a little bit. What was it like to play for him and his coaching strategies? He was a very successful coach, so talk about that a little bit.
I love Coach Moody. I mean, me and him still have a relationship. I think the strongest thing that he had is that he knew how to recruit.
Mm-hmm.
He knew his team well, and then our practices were good. He was tough, but I mean, at the same time, it worked. I mean, there were many times that I obviously was upset with him, but
Right.
it was good. It worked. He knew how to get under my skin to get that fire back again.
Yeah, and we talked to Coach Mines just now about homecoming week for him, his take on it. What was your take on homecoming as you were a student and a player, and then now? What is it like to go back and see some of these games or this football
Well,
season?
the one thing that I'm always excited now is being able to watch the football games because we never could when we were
Right.
when we were in season. We usually had a game and the guys were playing. It was cold, so we were not allowed to go. But I do love the atmosphere. People usually get pumped up. I mean, that looking at the crowd and seeing the guys like painted, and, you know, with the numbers and everybody fire up and I mean, now it's like my favorite time of the year. I just love to go and watch the games and people excited again.
Yeah. Looking back on your years you've spent here in Dickinson and at DSU, what is your favorite memory from that time?
Oh, I have so many. I like it. When I first got here, I mean, I was always apprehensive coming from a different place, and you come here to the school, and you think I'm gonna be like a different person in there, so everybody's is gonna be staring at you. But when I came through the DSU hall, that first day of school, and seeing all the faces, and I mean, there was so much diversity going on, and how the people in the town embrace the sport.
Right.
I love that. You know, it is what it made it, and I love the fact that we rarely ever lost. So I really had good memories when it comes to our team.
Yeah. And you've been here for a lot of changes through Dickinson. So what are some changes you've seen both at DSU and in the community over your time here?
I mean, like, it is definitely different now when you go and look at the volleyball team specialists. I mean, it's not the same. They're trying to rebuild the program. And I mean, the community, we went through like the oil boom where it was crazy, and now it's, you know, kind of, it went through kind of not so much, and now it's starting to build back up again. So, I mean, I work at UBS, so I see a lot of changes the way it goes, and how things move around, and how we go from having a lot of people to not so much. But I mean, the town is still, like, the core of it is still there. It's just that the outside, it changes a bit from time to time.
Yeah. And since it is homecoming week, and not just because of homecoming week, but do you get to see any of your teammates? Do you guys get together for anything to celebrate some of those years you guys had together, and especially this week as homecoming?
You see, like, most of my teammates live, like, in other countries.
Yeah, right.
You know, is that there are very few that are around here. I mean, when we see, like, we had that alumni game, I seen like 4 of them. But other than that, it's rare to see them because they live everywhere else in the world,
across
you
the
know.
world,
So
yeah.
so it is difficult for us to, like, keep keep track of each other. I mean, Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram is mostly how we communicate, but it is hard for my team because we were, for everywhere in the world,
Yeah. Well, with that team, with this school, the last question we're asking everybody, because it is the centennial, it is homecoming week. What does DSU mean to you?
I don't know. Like, I can't say enough of how much DSU gave me. I mean, I am from Puerto Rico and I'm still living in Dickinson. I love the sense of community that the school have. I love the feeling of going to the games and how people are so prideful of the team. I mean, my favorite thing is tailgating on the football, during football. So I think for me, it meant the start of my future.
Yeah.
So I love everything about DSU.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll be back talking with a former student from DSU right after this. Well, welcome back to Hawk Talk. We're here talking with a special person to the show, one of the directors at the foundation, one of our bosses, as we would say, a former student at DSU. So go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do here at DSU.
Okay, I'm Alicia Erickson, the Director of Alumni Relations at Dickinson State, and I'm originally from a little town in northeastern Montana called Dagmar, but I'm a proud Medicine Lake honker through and through.
Okay.
And I came to Dickinson State back in 1996 as a college freshman. Was only going to come for 1 year to make my parents happy, and I ended up staying all 4 years and graduated as a Blue Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your time since college. What things have you been involved in around the community?
Well, I haven't really left DSU. I was fortunate that I was recruited to become an enrollment counselor. Because I was a student ambassador in college. So I was an enrollment counselor for 11 years. I left for 2 years and actually did home mortgages during the oil boom,
Wow.
which was kind of crazy. And I decided if I wanted to have a heart attack before I turned 40, that it was to stay in
That's
that
how to go.
business. And then while I was doing that, I got recruited to come back to DSU. And so I jumped at the chance and accepted the position at the foundation where I've been a part of ever since.
Yeah.
So in the community, I'm a part of a lot of different things with the Yuletime Committee, with Cowboys and Candlelight, Homecoming, but I'm also a member of the PEO Chapter B here in Dickinson as well.
Cool. Well, looking back, you kind of mentioned this already. You mentioned you didn't really, you only wanted to come here for 1 year, but maybe after that year, did you anticipate DSU having such an impact or even staying here for that long?
No, I did not. It's probably the best piece of advice I ever followed was listening to my parents, because I was looking at going to North Dakota since it was cheaper for me to go out of state than stay in state, being from Montana. And I was looking at NDSU and UND, and my parents were like, whoa, slow down. You're coming from a school, graduating from a class of 23.
Yeah.
You need to start small and grow big. So they told me you have a couple choices. You can either go to Williston, Minot, or Dickinson.
Yeah.
I chose Dickinson because I did not know anyone else here.
Okay.
So couldn't imagine that I would end up staying at Dickinson State, especially for, just like Coach Mine said,
Yeah.
22 years.
Yeah. So when you were in college, what kind of things were you involved in on the campus?
My freshman year, I wasn't really involved. And so I made it a point that I told myself that I had to get involved. And I definitely got involved. I was a part of like the student ambassadors, the business club, campus activities board, the J board, where we got to hear from students that got in trouble throughout the week in the residence halls. The student judicial board, whereas if students really, like if they had a big fight or something like that, and if they were facing being expelled or suspended, I was a part of that. And so I just kind of got involved in different things that I saw necessary. Became a part of Lutheran Campus Ministries, in which I had a chance to go on a service mission trip to do Habitat for Humanity in California. So just lots of things. And each year kind of changed just depending upon my personality and what I wanted to learn.
Yeah, and you were involved with, like you just said, you were involved in so many things. Had this opportunity to come back as the director of alumni relations, and as that position, as that role, you're kind of the bridge between alumni and the school still. So how important is that job, both for the school and for the alumni?
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine having someone in that position that was not an alum, because every day is a new adventure.
Yeah.
Today it's kind of like a tilt-a-whirl that I'm hoping I can get off the ride soon, just because you never know who's going to be calling you or who's going to be stopping in. But everyone wants to know what's going on with Dickinson State University, what's going on with the DSU Heritage Foundation, what are the events for this week, what's coming up. Everyone wants to stay connected. So it's a very important role, and it's a job that I enjoy. I enjoy coming to work every morning. And most weekends you're going to see us at the tailgates, working on Saturdays. We also put on the post-game socials after the football games. So Saturdays are just an extra day, but none of us really complain about it. We might be a little bit more slow going on Monday mornings, but we're going to be there.
Yeah. How important is it for people to stay involved with their school? I know you obviously right away you wanted to be involved with DSU, and Coach Mines wanted to, and as well, and Raymond as well. But sometimes people don't get involved. So how important is it for people to stay involved, whether it's financially or just staying involved, knowing what's going on and coming to the games and to the events?
It's very important. I realize that some people take a different path in life where they might start having kids or get married, and their career, they're focused more on that. But at any point, they can come back and become a part of their Blue Hawk family again. And so for me and for Coach Mines, Coach Mines got married to another Blue Hawk earlier this last year. And so for both him and I think it meant for us, we were able to dedicate more time to the Blue Hawks. And I think it's important for any alum, no matter what your age, to know that your alma maters are always going to be there for you.
Yeah. You talked about that Blue Hawk family and how important that is, and we celebrate that a lot, I feel like, during homecoming week. So with your roles, both in the foundation and your work with Staff Senate, what are some things we can look forward to that you've planned this week for homecoming?
Oh, there's a lot of great opportunities for our alumni and friends. For example, on Friday evening, after the Athletic Hall of Fame banquet, we're going to have Reunion of the Decades at different taverns in town. That's a great time for different generations to be able to gather together. For example, the 70s group will be at the Spur, which might have been their hangout spot back in the day. But for a complete listing, you can go online to DSU Heritage Foundation.org to see that, or onto dickinsonstate.edu and click on 100-year centennial celebration to see that. But Saturday morning, we're going to honor Tim Siegel. Tim Siegel was an alum who worked for DSU at the time that he was killed in an auto accident. So we have the Tim Siegel 5K Mustache Dash. That starts at 8 o'clock at the BAC. Then we'll have the parade, which is a big tradition for Dickinson State. That'll be followed by the tailgate, which is legendary. So foods that are legendary to North Dakota. So we invite everybody to come out and try some of the food. Of course, go to the football game. Go cheer on the Blue Hawks. We're hoping for the third home shutout of the season. So let's make it happen again. At halftime, you'll be able to see all the alumni honorees and fellows, along with the Athletic Hall of Fame inductees. And even Susanna, as part of Homecoming Court, will go ahead and crown our King and Queen for 2018. And then thanks to the Blue Hawk Touchdown Club, our post-game social will be at the Ramada. And so we invite everybody to just come out and celebrate DSU Centennial. And the other special thing is October 13th is the 90th homecoming festivities of the school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's the centennial
Yeah,
year
awesome.
and the
And
90th.
right?
I did not know that.
That's really cool.
That's great to know. Well, you know, looking back on some of your times here at DSU, what is the best memory that you have?
Oh, there's been a lot of happy memories. I would say probably one of my favorite memories every year is the Alumni Fellows and Honorees Banquet. Just because hearing the stories from the alumni of what DSU means to them. And then I will also say commencement, because it's bittersweet to see some of those students graduate, but knowing that they're attaining their goal that they set forth when they entered the doors of May Hall as freshmen.
Right.
Yeah. So we're asking everyone this question, of course. It's our centennial year and apparently the 90th homecoming celebration, which is really cool. But in these years that you've been involved with this school, what has DSU meant to you?
Oh my gosh, DSU is my family. I bleed blue and gray, as you can see, and I'm pretty much married to it. DSU is kind of like my partner in life.
There you go.
So I hope that I can follow in the footsteps of some of our great women leaders that we've had in the past, like Maude Kleinfelter, and just be able to carry on that torch and hopefully instill in others the love for the university and the love for the college on the Hill.
Yeah. Well, Alicia, it's been great to have you on here. You do so much for the campus, so much for us as individuals, so much at the foundation, and we're glad to have you on.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll be back right after this, recapping this past week of athletics and looking forward to the next. Well, welcome back to Hawk Talk. We just want to recap, as we always do, just this past week, and then talk about what's coming up this next week. I know last week we mentioned that golf was going to be having.
We promised we'd have.
We promised we would go out there and watch, but we didn't have an opportunity. They canceled the meet. Snow on Monday and Tuesday kind of hindered that, but that was their last opportunity to golf this fall. So we'll wait until the spring to hear more golf stats.
Yeah, we know that rodeo is on the road again this weekend. They're headed to Fargo, which is a shorter road trip than they've had
thankfully.
the past few weekends. So we look forward to having results from that.
Yeah, and then an interesting thing here. Here's the first time we get to mention it. Women's basketball is going to be playing their first game this weekend on Friday. They're heading to Canada, which is an interesting. I don't know if the rules are changed. I doubt they are. I think they're the same in Canada. But that's the first time we get to mention that women's basketball has started up, and I believe men's basketball is next week. They're playing.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about football, Seth. We're going to talk about you for a little bit.
Okay.
So you guys lost to Waldorf last weekend.
It was a tough game,
yeah.
Yeah, that's where you're going.
That's where I was going.
It was a tough game on the road. Obviously, I think we traveled well. We just didn't play the best. We had 5 turnovers. They had 5 turnovers too. So the turnovers were even. But we just didn't make plays when we needed to, and they did. But we still had some players who stood out. Ahmad Andrews had 130 yards rushing, I think on 27 carries or something like that, which is incredible. Just kind of led the team in that way. And Danny Marino had 10 tackles, I believe, led the team in tackles. And so we still had guys that came out and performed well. And I know this next weekend, especially as homecoming, guys are anxious to get out there and play.
Yeah, like you said, this next weekend, you guys, Mayville, homecoming game.
Right.
It's home. We're hoping third shutout game, but
As Alicia mentioned, that's kind of the goal now for our. As we talked to Jay, about that. That's a goal to shut out every team.
Now listen, you started at the
and
first two
so I-
games. It's really your guys' fault.
We
but-
have to now. We will. And looking back at cross country, they went to Jamestown. Both the men and the women took second, which is really cool. I don't know who took first. I should have checked that, but that means they're standing really high in the conference, and we're looking forward to that conference meet. J.C. Wilson, Emily Keene, we had her on a couple weeks ago. They took 7th and 8th respectively. Lisa Townsend was a little later in the finish, but they've all finished very high this season, and so that's cool to see. And then Rodney Henry, we had him on last week. He took 4th. And that's so cool to see him continuing to have that success. And it's great to see both teams finishing second. And they're heading to Yankton, South Dakota next weekend, October 20th. So that's
good
the
luck to
last
them.
one before the conference meet, I believe.
Yeah, for them. Then let's talk a little bit about volleyball. We had Kira on a few weeks ago, Kylie on. We've had some volleyball players on. They beat Presentation on Friday in 4 sets.
Yep.
Kylie Hadley led in kills.
Yep.
And then they lost to Mayville in 3. But, Allie Hurt, Mackenzie DeGiswaldo.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up. Sorry if I messed that up too badly, but they both got 14 digs each.
Yeah. And like we talked to Kira last week, she said that they needed to go and win at least one of these. They wanted to win 2. They won that first night, and it was just, I think they were riding that really well, and that was great to see. That moved them up a spot. But it turns out every other team that they were tied with also won a game and lost a game this weekend, so they're still tied. Still tied for 4th or 5th, I believe. But talking with those girls, it sounded like they went that Saturday morning, and they were ready to play. They had scores of 25, 21, 25, 23, 25, 22, scores like that, and so they were in the game.
Yeah,
they were in the game the whole time, but just couldn't finish. And I know when those teams travel here, we're just going to beat them all. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But as we said, it's homecoming week. A lot of things Alicia mentioned. There's homecoming, the parade, the tailgate, the football game, and there's homecoming court.
Yes.
Susanna is on the homecoming court, so if you are a student, you can vote.
Go vote.
Go vote for her to be homecoming queen.
Yeah.
We're excited for that. We will be announcing that next week what the winner is. That happens at halftime of the football game, and we're excited to see that.
Yeah.
So you can always check out results. You can check out the game live on here, or check on some of the results on DSUBlueHawks.com. But until next week, we'll be back. But Hawks are up.